So Transit seems to be the talk of the town right now. It's a brand new plugin by Andrew Huang and also Baby Audio, to which thank you Baby Audio for sending this to me. I always love to check out new plugins, regardless of how I feel about them, just because it's really fun and I'm in a very privileged position to know a thing or two about sound design to hopefully give an informed opinion on the matter. So I do think that if you're just like, do you like it or not? I think that there are some things to like about this plugin. I also think that there is a ceiling on this because of some limitations that are inherent to the plugin itself, and we'll cover that here in a second. I've got this very, very simple beat that I made. Somebody asked me to make some like kind of ambient stuff, and I'll just play the intro and the main section, or a part of the main section. I need to drink some liquid death while we do that. So I don't know if you could tell or not, but on my master channel, you saw that there was a high pass filter to where we did a very basic transition. So if I were to maybe turn that off and pull up something like Transit, then maybe what we could do is get this to make a cooler transition for us. And this is the nature of the plugin. And what this does is basically tries to help build transitions. Now, I think that there's a lot to discuss with this, because what defines a transition and also what defines a fill, and also how can we use this in a means that is just beyond, you know, what these are. The main thing that I know that everybody is going to say in the comments, and I would know better than anybody else, is that you can make this on your own. But for somebody that doesn't want to put the time into stacking a bunch of effects and attaching it to automation, especially having a bunch of automation lanes open, or they're trying to use this as a placeholder, or you're DJing live. That's also a really good one, is DJing live and being able to kind of switch through like 8 different, or I guess 7 different, you know, effects that you can control with a single knob. Or if you're somebody that's kind of new to sound design and you're trying to figure out how transitions are made, this can teach you a lot. The problem with it is that, and I know that we haven't heard it yet, we'll talk about some examples in a second, but the problem that I have personally is that you can only have one instance of the effect. And I do think that if there were some kind of spectral effects, or there was some kind of even like pitch stuff, or like there's a couple of other things, there is a pitch shifter in here, sorry. But yeah, some kind of spectral effects, or even having the ability to have multiple instances of effects, because you can only have one. Like there's a delay right here, and if I were to pull a delay up, you'll see that it's already taken, so it would override if we do that, or actually it just won't even let me select it. That's kind of a bummer, because what that means is if I want to use 2 of these delays, let's say I really like the timbre of what this does, I really like the feedback, then that means that I have to make another transit, and I could just duplicate it and then change the patches or whatever and stack them, because the automation should save, but it's kind of an inconvenience. And the thing about this too is that it is kind of somewhat overkill in some cases about what I'm asking, but for somebody that does really crazy sound design, I don't think that my project that I'm showing you here does this justice. You know, it's that's the ceiling that I'm talking about. So aside from that though, let's talk about its strengths. The one knob fits all is pretty cool, and I was doing a stream on this earlier, and I was like running into a couple of instances where I was like, wow, that's actually really cool. So as you can see, we've got some automation on the filter, so I'm just going to copy that and go into the transition control. I think, is that the one? Yeah, so what we can do is just paste this where we would for this, and what I can do is hit random. Now, I'm not going to go like 100% into the plugin, but just know that if you see these yellow icons, that means that it's going to open up the modulation on the inside. So you can set this to however many bars, pendulum loop. This, it looks like, I'm not really sure what that does. I'd have to look at the manual, but maybe this just sets it to play. But yeah, so what's cool is that these little guys will toggle whether or not this is acting to the bars or not, and that makes it independent. It's almost like its own LFO or its own thing over time. That's pretty cool. The other thing is that some of these can go either up or down. So if you see that it's pink, that means that it's going to modulate down. If you see that it's green, it's going to modulate up. And I think that's pretty cool. And as a whole, I think that this plugin looks really nice, especially when it's dark. You have some really cool effects. Excuse me. You've got a built-in OTT, which is pretty nice. You've got bit crushing, auto pan, chorus delay, distortion. You've got different types of distortion within that: flanger, oscillator, which is kind of cool, phaser, pitch shifting, pumping, reverb, spread, all that stuff. So again, like I said, you've got a choice between like 17 effects, because a low pass filter doesn't count as 2, but that doesn't mean that it's definitely not usable. What I like to do, and I think that is really cool, is you could just randomize all this stuff and be like, okay, well, let's see what this sounds like. All right, now that's a little grindy, so, you know, not everyone is going to be a winner, but we can modulate this again and see how this sounds. Now, I will argue that was a really long transition, but like I said, the cool thing is that if you have a little bit of intuition, even with how insane that transition was, what you can do is you can actually pull this out and take this and use that as a transition layer. And so this becomes a little bit more valuable because it allows you to have a one knob that modulates a bunch of stuff. And as you're building on this, we can use this for different purposes. So even though this is a little bit loud and it is a little bit harsh, like, what if we were to just take that and use that as our transition? So while this is kind of going down and kind of stopping, right, we can just kind of move this over right before the beat starts. And then what we can do is, you know, use some other stuff with this. So what if I were to take this and, I don't know, add a tremolo to this? So while this is going on, we're going to set the timing of this here and move this up and start to do, make this go a little bit faster over time. So and then we've created a custom transition from that just by taking a concept and then being able to expand upon that. And you can do this as many times as you want. Like, let's say we did that, you know, great, whatever, save it as a preset. We can randomize this again and listen to how it sounds now with this transition too. So I hope that this is making sense to you, because it's, again, like, not the most innovative thing that I've ever seen, but it is incredibly useful in the right hands and can help expedite you making more unique transitions and stuff in the first place. I will say that, like, a beat looper or a beat repeat or something would be super helpful, because what if I didn't want to do something like this? What if I didn't want to branch this out in reverb? One thing that I could do is turn off the effects on here, and let's say, you know, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to use maybe like an exponential rhythm or something. I can go Command J and do something like this, to where we're now making an exponential rhythm of this repeat. So or maybe I wanted to do it the other way, to where it starts slow and wanted to do this, and I could right click this and go slice at repeats and grab all of these and make them something kind of like this. Which you can't really hear because of the reverb, but even still, let me see where that is and see if I can turn that off. Oh, that's because transit's already on, so. Right, so having something like that is very difficult to achieve just with this plugin in itself. But even still, if this is all you have, this is definitely going to make the process that I just described a lot easier. And then you can take that and refurbish it, I guess, with other means of, other means of effect stacking and stuff as a whole. And what's cool is that you don't have to change the randomization on it. So one thing that I've been asking for from Bitwig forever is the ability to right click and then replace this with a different effect. especially if you have automation, right? With this, you already have the automation built in, and then you can just go randomize, and then that will give you a whole new list of effects that you can, and you can do this by hand too, but that's actually extremely powerful, especially because you have that automation that's built in. If I were to do something like this within SnapHeap or Multipass, and I were to delete the effect, the problem is that, I guess I could just show you, is that while SnapHeap or Multipass or something is really cool and whatnot, let's say I've got an EQ on this and I have automation here. If I delete this and whatever, I have the automation or something going on, the problem is that I'm gonna have to go back and do this again. So if I can't right click and swap this out, so I'd have to go to the compressor or whatever it is that I want to use. This is just a use case, and then I'd have to go and redo the automation to where on something like Transit, it streamlines, you don't have as much control, but that convenience factor is definitely something that is worth considering. This is currently priced at $60. I don't necessarily know if I would pay $100 for this. I don't know if I particularly need this plugin because of where I'm at as a sound designer, being able to do things like at an advanced stage, but I can definitely see the value for people that are relatively new to producing, or if you're somebody that needs beats fast on the fly. To me, it's like using Splice or Loop Cloud or Arcade or something to get access to really fast ideas. And this is just what that is a really fast idea generator. So one last thing is we can kind of swap through a couple of these presets here. Like maybe on the edge of this like chorus or something, I want to grab something and throw, say, a transit onto this while this is loading. And what we can do is kind of just swap through a couple of presets, and then I'll show you how that sounds. And you can make a decision for yourself on whether or not this is a plugin that is for you. Hopefully this, okay, cool, that wasn't too bad. But what we can do is open this up, and we can figure out where we want that change to be, which is kind of like here. Maybe right here. Cool. So this would be a perfect place to add that transition, and what we want to do is automate this all the way up until the bar, and then we want to turn it off. Like if you were to do a reverb or something, or reverb wash is what we call it. But now that we have something like that, we can kind of let this play just a few times. I'll just play the last 2 bars, and I'm gonna hit 2 and then just go Command L, and now we can listen to different presets when this kind of goes up. So I'm just going to close my eyes and let this run freely, or what I could do is go erase and then bring some stuff up, and then just whatever, doesn't matter, let all of these kind of fade in and do their own thing and kind of wash through, and let's see what we get. Like that's not bad, it's okay. Now, one thing that I also wanted to mention was that I think that I want to make sure that this is off, so that way when this is completely turned off, the effects are also going to be off. So that was pretty cool. We're gonna unlock this, and this is going to let us swap these things out whenever we flip them. So now, whenever I hit randomize, this is going to completely change all these. So one thing that I will leave you all with is that, as you can tell, the dynamics of this has drastically changed. So that's why I think that it's really important to bounce this stuff into audio. But if you use this as a builder, as opposed to like just transit in itself, then I do think that you can get some really interesting results. But as you can hear, whenever you do this, you don't necessarily really know what you're going to get unless if you go back to the same, like the presets that are consistent. But I do think that if you were to kind of take that mindset of, hey, this is this one size fits all and I can randomize with the same automation, you end up getting some cool stuff. So if Baby Audio or Andrew Huang is open to suggestions, because I know that programming is not an easy thing. For one, adding some modules like, you know, some spectral stuff would be cool. Some beat shuffle stuff would be really cool. I talked about this on stream, but I don't think that you can like inherently add like multiple copies of the same instance. So maybe, you know, just adding more stuff could be interesting. What else do I think would be really cool about this plugin? I don't know. That's really it. I think that those two are my biggest gripes, but I still think that it's a cool idea, and I hope to see more people creating plugins like this because it's a problem that not a lot of people are looking at solving. Yes, again, you can use and do all this stuff on your own, but if you look at who I think that this market or what market this plugin is made for, I do think that it's geared more towards beginners. But even still, like I can use this on top of all the other production stuff that I know and add on to it. So I'm not saying that you should buy this. I'm not saying that this is the greatest plugin in the world, but it's got some pros, it's got some cons, and now it's up to you to make that decision. And I'm curious as to what you all think and would love it if you all let me know in the comments. I would also appreciate if you all like the video and subscribe. We've got a giveaway going on. So once I hit 20,000 subscribers, I will be giving away a copy of DisTube Culture. So thank you to Arturia as well. Thank you, Baby Audio. Andrew Huang, would love to have a conversation with you if you see this video. Not to like be rude or anything, but just to chop it up with you and talk about production things and how I could hopefully make your plugin better. Shout out to all the other guys that have presets on here. Yay, it's a Cameron. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.